Hi everyone, this is Becca from Becca's Music Room. I'm a music teacher who talks about teacher tips, teacher life, teacherpreneurs, and all things that might hopefully make your life just a little bit easier. Today I'm going to talk about how to teach the rules at the beginning of the school year. Now, full disclosure, I am not an expert in any way. I just know that I have now had 2 full years of school under my belt, and the second one was a lot easier than the first. So if you are a first-year teacher or if you know a first-year teacher, please share this video with them, because this is something that boggled my mind the first year and went so much smoother the second year. If you found this interesting, helpful, or anything like that, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share so that other people can find it interesting and you can get all of my other videos delivered straight to your inbox for your entertainment. Make sure you hit that little bell button as well so that you can get notifications every time I post a video. All right, so when I first started teaching, I asked some of my team members, what do you do on the first day of school? And they all said, oh, well, you teach the rules. And I was like, okay, all right, teach the rules, got it. But I didn't actually know how to do that. So the first day came and I was like, okay, these are the rules. And that was pretty much it. And it was not as effective as it could be. So if you are sitting there like, how do I teach the rules? How do they know what to do? This video is for you. It does not have all the magic answers, but it will help. Now, number one, you have to actually decide what your rules are going to be. If you are a teacher that has just like one set of classes, I would highly recommend that you allow the kids to help you make your rules. So maybe ask them what they think the rules should be. Now, I teach 30 classes because I teach elementary music. So that doesn't really work well for me because I can't have like 30 posters with different rules around the room. That would be very chaotic. So instead, I came up with the rules, but I do allow for student input. So I have 4 rules, well, like 5-ish. I have 4 rules in my classroom, and I actually have a rhythm that goes along with them. I will get back to that in a second. They are follow directions, be respectful, be responsible, be a participant. Now, yours could be totally different, and honestly, I feel like they could all be wrapped up in just be respectful. Like, that could probably be our only rule, but I don't feel like it's specific enough. Maybe I'll try that one year, not this year. But really, those are the only things that I need, because everything gets encompassed in that. Destroying classroom property? That's not respectful. Talking while the teacher's talking, that's not following directions. Like, they're all pretty much wrapped up in there. The only extra thing is I always say, and no chewing gum, which really could go into being responsible because we don't want gum on the floor. Really, I don't want the kids choking on the gum while they're singing songs in my music class, but still. So decide what your rules are going to be. After you decide, come back and talk to your kids about what they think it means. Something that kind of blew my mind is that respect means something totally different to different students. Some students come from places where it's respectful to look at the ground when people are talking to you. Some people come from places where it's respectful to look adults in the eye when they're talking to you. That alone can cause so many problems, because I hear teachers all day long, look at me. And I say it too, I'm not gonna lie. I say it. I'm like, look at me in my eyes. Like, look at my eyes while I tell you this so that you know what I'm saying. Some kids think that's really disrespectful. So make sure you ask them what they think respect and what they think all the rules are, but also tell them what you think they are. So I let the other kids tell me what they think respect is, what they think responsible is, what they think following directions is. And then I tell them my definition of them, because they might not be the same. So that I tell them, this is what Miss Davis expects in my classroom. It might be different than in your classroom. It might be different than at your house. It might be different than the teacher you had last year. But in my classroom, this is what we're doing. And I actually have that on my poster. So on my poster, I have my big rule, and then underneath it, I have bullet points with my extra things, like follow directions. Underneath it says, the first time, not when you feel like it. So little things like that really do make a difference, because some kids maybe are not trying to be bad, they just don't know what you expect. And if they don't know what you expect, they're not going to meet your expectations. So there's lots of different ways that you can incorporate the rules. So I'll just mention really quickly a few different things. I've seen teachers where they give the rule with like on a piece of paper and just have kids get in groups and talk about that rule, and then they present it to the class. You could have each kid write what they think each of the rules means. You could do whatever. You could just have a discussion as we're talking, you know, any of those things are totally fine, but make sure you let the kids give input, because you don't want to be like, this is my classroom, these are my rules, this is what we're doing. You want it to be our classroom where we are learning, we are participating, so that we are all successful. Then throughout the week, make sure you come back to them. This was the biggest mistake I made my first year. I was like, all right, here's the rules. And then I never circled back to them. This year, we went over them every single day, the first week of school. And then every time I had them after that, because I had my classes every day for a week, so I'd have like one first grade every day for a week, and then a new first grade next week. So every day for a week. So the next time I saw them on Monday, we remembered our rules every week until the end of this. It was literally the last week of school when we were going, be respectful in class, so that we would not forget how to do those things. Also, when you see kids doing things that are in alignment or not in alignment with the rules, point it out. So instead of saying, don't do that, I'll ask the kids the question, is that respectful? Is that responsible? Do responsible people do that? And it just using the same language as with your rules really helps that click. And I will point to them when I say it. You know, I'll say, make sure you're following directions and being respectful. Or if we're about to do an activity, I'll say, all right, I'm looking for responsible people being kind, which means being respectful to other people while we do this activity. And like pointing to it just really helps get that like, oh, this is what we're doing. This is how it is when I'm in this classroom. Next, make sure you practice all those routines and not just like, okay, class, come get a pencil. No. You need a system for everything. So in my classroom, my kids sit in rows and they sit on different colors. So I'll say, all right, if you are on a green, please stand up. You're gonna walk this way to come to the front of the classroom, around and back to your seat. And we practice that. Now we don't practice all the routines on the very first day because that would be very boring. But when they come up, we practice them. We make sure we do them right. And I make sure that I give them very clear instructions, which is actually my next point. Make sure you give very clear directions. Very clear. There is a difference between stand quietly and stand right behind the person in front of you with your hands in your pockets and no noises. I've actually stopped saying we're coming inside quietly and started saying we're coming in with no noises, because that includes all noises that we can possibly give. We still have trouble with that, but it's a lot less trouble than when I'm like, all right, come in quietly. Because quiet could be a whisper. It could be whatever. Like, no, sit down at your seat, get to work. No, is really what we want. As clear as you can possibly make it is what you want to do. In my classroom, we do a lot of movement activities, and that's where I see this the most, because my students are not the most well behaved. There are actually some of those students where people who know the schools where I'm from are like, you teach there? Why? Like, is it awful? I think it's terrible. No, they're not terrible, but they do take a little bit of extra explanation. So anytime we do something that involves moving around the room, we are very, very clear about what is okay and what is not. So before we do something, I'll tell them, this is what we're doing. This is where you can go. Do not go by my pianos, but you can stay in this whole big empty spot. And then I'll say, you know, is it respectful to run into people? No. Is it responsible to touch Miss Davis's stuff when you're moving around? No. Is it following directions if you're just doing whatever the heck you want instead of doing what I asked you to do? No. So all those things come back into play, and I'm very specific. Like, we are walking around the room to the study beat, showing high and low with their body, not running into people, like all those kind of things. And you have to say things like that. It seems so overkill. Oh, good gracious. It seems so overkill. But especially with those little kids, you have to say things like, we are not running. We are not running into people. We're not pushing people. We're not touching people. We're not touching Miss Davis's stuff. Like all those little things, like if you can go really overboard, it's going to be the best. Also, when you're giving directions, when you're talking about the rules, model them for the kids. Show them what being respectful is and what not being respectful is. Maybe even have a kid come up and have them talk to you and like be really attentive, and then have them talk and be like, because that will show them the difference between the two. Sometimes seeing it makes it better. And also for some reason they just think it's so funny when they see a teacher who's like not following the rules. It is just like the funniest thing ever to them. So those things can all help you. Now, the way that I actually teach the rules in my elementary music classroom, I have them posted. Once again, I have 4, and I have the rhythms on them. So what I do is like the rhythm of the words. So the first day with my older students, like maybe 2nd grade and up, I'll play the rhythm and they try to guess which of the rules it is. So I tell them it's a guessing game. Is it really? Maybe. And they try to guess which one it is. And then after they guess, I'm like, oh, good. What does it mean to be responsible? What does it mean to be respectful? All those kind of things. With the younger kids, we just clap and echo. And I do it literally all year long, y'all. Like, all the time. I'm like, before we get started on this activity, let's remember how we act in the music room. Repeat after me. And we do follow directions. And then be respectful. And then be responsible. Be a participant. And so we literally go over those all the time. And we do that like back and forth. Even my 5th graders, like that is a normal thing. And if they don't do it the first time, I keep going until they do, so that it is ingrained in their brains. I also keep the rules consistent from year to year. That way they don't have to learn new things, because, you know, we all know that they just can't. I hope all of these things are going to help you have a much more successful first week of school than I did my first year. If you have anything to add, or especially if you have a creative way to talk about the rules, maybe you have a specific book that you like to use or anything like that, please leave them down below in the comments so that we can get more ideas, because this is always something that is a struggle at the very beginning of the year. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share if you found this useful or think someone else could find it useful, and have a wonderful, wonderful week.